Yeah, that's one of the verses on Reasonable Doubt album. It's almost like a shout out. Jay shouted me out on that when on that album with me being shot, talking about when I got shot. You know what I'm saying? That right there. That story is unique because I talk about it and how it happened. It just was one of those times where when you do things like that's out of your pattern. You know what I mean? Um, I remember that all too well. Like, it was a split. It was like spur of the moment decision of going to see my connect, going to get some work from my connect. I think me and Jay was in New York and shit. We was living in Trenton at that time. And I decided like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I got a few stacks on me and shit. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a few, grab something while we in New York. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, spur of the moment and shit, man, because that's not really how I do business, how I was doing shit back then. So I said, yo, we gonna run uptown and shit, grab something before we go back to Trenton. And Jay had on all this jewelry and shit and all this, thinking back, man, that shit was like the worst idea, man. I don't know what I was thinking about. Like I said, Jay had on all this jewelry, and we went on, I think it was like 143rd Broadway and shit. I was dealing with this connect in the building and shit. Like, I had been dealing with them off and on for a little while, but it ain't never been like on some night shit. All of this shit was all wrong and shit. I went up there when it was at nighttime and all of this, and you had to go through 2 doors and shit to get to the apartment. And, they let you in the apartment and they cook it up for you and all this shit. Like, so we went up there and, normal routine, go through the double doors, the connect, knock on the door, they see who it is and shit. And we in there and shit. I'm ordering what I want and shit, you know what I'm saying? I'm waiting for them to come back and shit, because I don't think they kept it in the apartment and shit for that. Whatever. But I don't know, just something was off. From the time that, I got to work and put it in my pants and walked out the door, and like the way the door slammed behind me, it was right then and there, it just was a bad, eerie feeling and shit. And then, like I said, it was double doors and shit. This type of doors. One of them is a door. The first door it has a little square glass and shit. So you can see out the first door, and then the other door, is a regular outside door. But when that door closed behind me, like I seen a head go by and shit outside, through the square and shit, and I'm just like I said, shit was just way off. And as I got to the door and I could see nigga outside, you know what I mean? It just all happened so fast from there and shit. And once we walked outside and shit, the nigga was on me. The first thing I could think about, man, is, like I said, man, plenty of times, man, and I'll never take that back. Only thing I could think about is, this is Jay, not getting hurt. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to be able to explain this to his mother. I'm not going to be able to explain this to my mother. You know what I'm saying? That something happened to Jay and he was like my little brother. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I just went into a different mode, man. Like, big brother mode. Like, dude grabbed me. Once dude, like, grabbed me and put me in stick-up motion. Like, he grabbed me from behind, put me in stick-up motion. I had enough time to actually push Jay away off the set. And mind you, this stick-up nigga had another dude with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, this nigga, I don't know what part he played in other than just being there, because he ain't do shit from nothing I know of, you know what I mean? Like I said, the shit happened so fast, but once I pushed Jay away, this nigga stuck it in my back and pulled the trigger. Boom. And I guess Jay gone, his man ran, and it's just me and him tassling. You know, like when he hit me, like I said, he was that close on me. He holding me. He got a shot off, and I got my hands on his hand, and we started tussling. You know, we tussling for this gun and shit. And I don't know how I had the energy to be tussling and shit, but we tussling. I just want to get this gun out his hand, and next you know, I can hear him calling his boy, like, yo, come back, yo, come back. That right there kind of got me paranoid, that is dude coming back and this and that. So I honestly took a chance on, just letting this gun go and taking off. And when I took off, you know what I'm saying, he ain't take another shot at me or nothing and shit. I know he knew he got me the first time. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't know at the time. You know what I'm saying? So I get to running, I get up almost at the end of the block and shit, and Jay up there at the corner waiting on me and shit. And Jay like, yo, you all right? You all right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. That's just my adrenaline pumping and shit. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I'm like, damn, this nigga, like, I don't know, this nigga hit me in my back, though, with something. Like, I'm thinking that maybe he shot, but then hit me with the gun because, I don't feel it. But I keep reaching in the back, and next you know, I stick my finger right in the hole back there and shit. Like, oh, shit, Jay. I said, yo, this nigga shot me. Jay like, word? And I'm like, yeah. So, right then and there and shit, it's this store right there on the corner. And I go in this store, and I'm like, yo, Poppy, do me a favor, man, could you call the police? I got shot, you know what I'm saying? Poppy like, no, Poppy, no, I don't want no trouble, get out. I'm like, oh shit, this nigga just really threw me out the store, I'm hit. So I'm like, I go outside the store and shit, and I'm like, I'm out of wind, like I really can't breathe that good and shit, you know what I'm saying? Come to find out, the end results was the bullet went through my liver, my bladder, my spleen. I mean, it actually was hanging out my chest, like right underneath my chest and shit when I got to the hospital. So I kind of sat down on the floor and shit, and I'm just sitting there like, yo, okay, what to do next? So I'm like, yo, Jay, flag a cab down. No, call an ambulance and shit. And so Jay trying to get somebody to call an ambulance. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there and I'm just looking up and shit. And I'm looking up and there's some girls in the window like, hey, baby, you all right? And I'm like, nah, and shit. And I'm like, nah, I ain't all right, bro. And shit, you know what I mean? I got shot. And they like, yo, you want us to call an ambulance? And I'm like, yeah, please. And then, so I'm like, the girls are calling an ambulance. I'm sitting there waiting and shit, but I'm also looking at Jay trying to get a cab, and he got on all this jewelry, and niggas is walking by like, yo, shit all right, you all right, type of shit, and peeping shit. And I'm like, nah, this ain't gonna work. So one of the shorties just was like, yo, fuck an ambulance, baby. You need to catch a cab. It just so happened Jay flags down the cab. And I jump in the cab. We jump in the cab and shit. And he like, yo, we go to St. Luke's Hospital. Cab drivers get us there. Cab drivers, I ain't gonna front. I told him I was shot. That nigga was driving like Starsky and Hutch through the city. You heard the mother. Like, I'm talking about, I swore we was on two wheels when we hit a corner before, but he got me there. And I remember pulling up to the hospital, and Jay getting ready to get out, and I'm getting ready to get out, and I'm like, hold up. He like, yo, what's up? I'm like, nah. I said, yo, you can't go in the hospital with me. He like, why? I'm like, cuz I go up in my pants, and I pull out the yayo. I felt like, thinking back like Tony Montana, and he said, yo, you got the money? He said, yeah, and I got the yayo. He said, you got the yayo? Bring it to me. Nah, fuck you. I'll take it to myself. But anyway, I told Jay, yo, nah, hey, I got this. I still got this shit. They ain't get this. You know what I'm saying? I said, gave him the work and said, yo, just go jump in a cab, go to Brooklyn, go tell my moms and this and that and the third. And that was it. And the next thing I can remember, I don't know, yo, it's like when when things like this happen and you have a glimpse of your life being took, it's like shit happened so fast, but you don't see the reality of it. Cause number one, when that gun went off, I seen a flash of my whole life within seconds. You know what I'm saying? All the way down to being on that operation bed, I seen the white light. I seen my grandmom's like, nah, I seen this and my grandmom's like, nah. She rejected me. She kind of sent me down like, what you doing here type of shit. Like, this shit is like crazy. Like, I don't know if anybody ever had any near-death experiences, but this is what it's like. But everything is just happening so fast because it seemed like once I told Jay to get in the cab and go to Brooklyn and get my mom's, the next you know, I see my mom standing over me. You know what I'm saying? Talking about it's gonna be all right, it's gonna be all right, it's gonna be all right. And I'm like, damn, how did she get here so fast? You know what I'm saying? Like, we all the way up in Harlem and then she came all the way from Brooklyn with the quickness. I guess that's just mama. Mama Love, like maybe she jumped in the same cab that took us here, whatever. But yeah, and and then I remember the doctor just ripping my clothes off, and when he ripped my clothes off and shit, and he just kind of felt right here on my chest. He was like, "Here go the bullet right here," and it didn't go. And like he was like, "Yo, you really lucky." Like I was always thick, anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like I was always thick. But he was like, yo, just your size, you lucky because, for one, it's just your heart right there. Like the bullet came out right here and my heart like had less than an inch away from my heart and stuff. So, next and I remember them putting that mask on and I'm waking up next day and my stomach is stitched up from the all the way up my stomach like I had a C-section shit, you know what I mean? And staples and shit and waking up and my mom's and I'm shot and shit. I'm like, damn, it's all right, but long story short, man, like I said, man, it was one of those situations where, I was out of my element with even doing this. That wasn't my pattern. And that's the shit that happened and shit when you don't follow, the same pattern as you usually do. Stayed in the hospital about 2 weeks, and then, right before it was time to leave and shit, my lungs collapsed, so I had to stay another week. When I had to stay another week, it was mad confusing in the hospital, mad girls coming up there, mad baby mama drama. You know what I'm saying? That shit, that shit was crazy. But, that's just what kind of go through my mind and shit when that story go in my head every time I hear that song and shit. And that's just like, that's real life situations that he be talking about on the music. You know what I mean? That was like a shout out to me to let him know that he acknowledged, you know what I'm saying, what I done for him and shit. So that's just, that's just soul love, man. Like I said, that whole Reasonable Doubt album, man, is just, that's why it's so dope, man. There's so many songs on there that's actually about my life and what we did. You know what I'm saying? And that's what makes it so dope. So I can't wait to break down the chronicles to you. That's the story right there. And shout out to OG Certified, man. Make sure y'all paying attention to that, man. Make sure you subscribe to OG Certified because the chronicle's gonna be dope. If you thought this story was dope, man, we got 25 years to cover through this music, man, that y'all ain't heard, and the stories that y'all ain't heard, man. Marcy Chronicles gonna be dope. Shout out to Industry Labs and everybody else, man. Make sure you watch Marcy Made. Shout out Amazon. Shout out Cam Capone. You know what I'm saying? It's all love, man. I appreciate you, man, for the support and what you do for Marcy Made, man. Like I said, you know what, Cam, from the last interview, bro, when we first got to you, we was just getting, promoting it being on Tubi, or was it Amazon? It might have been Amazon, but it doesn't matter. Guess what? We on 9 streaming platforms, man. And I ain't gonna front. We just wouldn't be able to do it without, people like you with your support and, what I'm saying, your following and what you doing, man. So I appreciate you, Cam, bro. We got mad content coming your way. You know what I'm saying? So stay tuned, man. Like I said, shout out to everybody that's watching us, that watch us on Amazon. Shout out to everybody. You can go to Tubi. Like, we out there. We out, man, Cali.
What's up? This is Cam Capone. We got more content like this coming soon, so hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in to Cam Capone News.